Hey there everyone, Argonaut here, and today we're talking about Sonic Superstars. Sonic Superstars is the latest classic-style Sonic game to come out that centers itself around the fact that you can now play with up to 4 people. It's been a few months since the game's release, and you may be wondering, is Sonic Superstars worth it? Well, as someone who bought the game on launch day and platinumed it, I can give you the full rundown. Okay, the story itself is pretty simple. Eggman's trying to harness some new power of giant Flickies, remember those? And gather the Chaos Emeralds on some new set of islands called the North Star Islands, and Sonic and his friends head there to stop them. Once there, they learn that one of their old enemies, Fang the Treasure Hunter, is also working with Eggman this time around, along with a new character covered in some weird armor named Trip, who, as we can see from the comics Sega released shortly before the game's release, doesn't exactly want to work with them at all. So anyway, you shoot through the game like you can expect from a normal Sonic game, gather up the Chaos Emeralds if you want, defeat the bosses, and beat the game, and everybody celebrates. Happy, happy! And by the end of the game, Trip develops the courage to break free from Eggman and Fang and ends up joining forces with our heroes. She also gets rid of her armor and we see that what she really looks like. Apparently she's something called a Sun Gazer Lizard? And can transform into a freaking dragon when she gets all the Chaos Emeralds. R.I.P. Super Amy. But either way, she is adorable and becomes a new playable character. End of the base story. Now, to talk about the gameplay. The physics feel pretty good, and all the characters move how they're supposed to with gravity and the incline of slopes and whatnot. And you get a choice between 5 characters. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, with Trip being unlockable at the end. And the story goes the same no matter who you choose, although each character has their own unique moves. Sonic has his drop dash from Sonic Mania returning in this game, Tails can of course fly, Knuckles can climb walls and glide, and Amy can double jump, and she can also slam her hammer in front of her while running, like she's playing whack-a-mole. And Trip also has a double jump like Amy, and can also climb up walls or roll across ceilings. Not to mention her super form where she can just straight up fly and breathe fire. Speaking of Chaos Emeralds, each new emerald gives you a unique power this time around, which I actually think is a really nice feature. Realistically, you're probably only going to use about 2 emerald powers, but I think this is a welcome addition to the franchise. Now, a huge gripe that I actually have with this game is that bosses have a really long attack window before you can hit them again, and it just equals you standing around for a long time doing nothing. I'm assuming this is due to the fact that the game is designed with 4 people in mind, not 1, but my complaint is, why not just give the boss extra health for each character in the game, instead of having one player stand around forever to get a hit in? And that actually brings me to my next topic here, the multiplayer. For a game that promotes itself so heavily around the multiplayer, it's honestly really hard to believe that in this day and age, there's no online multiplayer for story mode. But yet, they have an online battle mode that I don't remember anyone asking for. But, moving on, I looked around online, and the main thing I saw was a developer saying that Sonic was too fast-paced. I mean, I'm no game dev, but couldn't you just let everyone have their own perspective of themselves on the map? Kinda like the classic games, but then forcibly yank everyone into a portal if one person reaches a boss or portal on the map or something? When you actually do play multiplayer with your friends, imagine having those. It becomes a bit of a chaotic mess, but sort of in a fun way. You remember Sonic the Hedgehog 2 when you could play as Tails? Well now, everyone's Tails! If one player moves forward and you get left off the screen, that's it, you're gone. You have to respawn yourself. And annoyingly enough, this even cancels out your super transformation. Although, against bosses, if you die, that's it. No respawning at all. After you beat the main story, you end up unlocking Trip's story, which is pretty much just the main story all over again. I mean, even the bosses are all the same. Only the difficulty is just turned up to 11. I mean, a challenge is a challenge, but this is just not fun. I mean, like, half of the times you get punished for going too fast by either a random enemy off-screen, or spikes that you can't see coming, or a random pitfall, or just something randomly crushing you, forcing you to basically half-crawl most of the times. It's just... it's not that bad until you come up to Trip's final boss. Whoever designed this thing just wanted to see little kids cry. I mean, look at the trophy list here. About 20% of people finish the main story, but then only 5% at the time of this only finish Trip's story. I'm willing to bet that's all just because of the final boss. I mean, first off, this guy is able to straight one-shot you with more than half of his moveset, and he can even one-shot you in super form. I mean, can you imagine struggling through this level, making it all the way to the end with more than 50 rings, and then just getting taken out in one shot? If you look online, you're just going to hear people say that it took them at least 6 hours to beat this one boss. Even worse, after you beat the boss's first phase, he has a second phase. And it's even worse than the first one. And it still has one-shots. And if you die here, it's back to the first phase all over again. And it takes at least 3 minutes to beat this guy. Between the long attack windows and avoiding more one-shot moves, it's just frustrating. I don't know if Sega's gonna end up patching this boss fight later, especially the part where he can one-shot you in super form. I've never seen that happen in a Sonic game before, but from the vibes I'm getting so far, it feels like this game may have been released a little bit too early. I mean, there was a known bug in the game where you could go supersonic and not lose your rings at all, and that was in there for months before a patch finally came out. But, anyways, after you beat the final boss, you get a nice little cutscene with everybody celebrating Trip's victory, and then you unlock the final story. Took me about 2 days to beat the final boss, by the way. Just a classic case of get good, I guess. Alright, this part gets a little bit weird, because when you click to start the final story, Sonic goes super automatically, and then wanders through the stage 1 level, where you see a new portal appear. Upon entering the portal, a cutscene starts with a dragon coming out the portal? Like, at basically no point throughout the game did it even really hint at that dragon. Besides maybe for about 2 seconds at the very end of a Knuckles mission with a random drawing. I mean, it almost feels like you missed a cutscene or something when this thing appears. I can almost guarantee, if you check any other YouTubers' videos, they'll probably say the same thing about this dragon, and don't even know the name of it. But, anyways, you fight the dragon, which isn't so much of a fight as opposed to you just collecting random rings that appear and waiting for your friends to drop even more rings while you wait for the attack window. Honestly, I think this might be one of the worst Supersonic levels that I've ever played. But, anyways, you beat the boss and then you see an animated cutscene of Trip sealing it away back into the crystal, and Sonic and friends celebrating over their victory. Now, looking at this last cutscene leads me to think that Trip might be the last of an almost extinct race that once lived on the island, kinda like Knuckles, and maybe it was her job to keep that dragon sealed away, in which case, I think it would have been cool if Trip were somehow included in the last boss fight. I mean, wouldn't it be cool to see Supersonic and Dragon Trip fighting against a bigger and evil dragon? But I guess I can live with how things went, though. I guess. And that's Sonic Superstars. The gameplay is pretty solid, and I think they missed a huge opportunity by not adding an online mode to its story. The levels are pretty decent, except Press Factory. And I actually really like Trip and would love for her to appear in other Sonic games in the future. Although, I mean, let's be real, that's probably not going to happen. The boss fights are enjoyable enough, but prepare to be heavily frustrated when it comes down to Chip's story, especially with her final boss. Overall, this game gets a 5.5 out of 10 from me. Would I recommend this game to people? Yes. But definitely not at its $60 price tag. I would definitely wait for a price drop of at least $30 or more first. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you like this video and want to see more, feel free to like and comment. It really helps out this channel. Did you agree with what I said? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments below. I'd also love to hear from you. Until next time. Oh, also, for any Sonic Frontiers players, you remember the end from Sonic Frontiers? It's in the background of one of the last level of Superstars. What's up with that? I'm not even gonna try to connect those dots. Until next time.